Let's watch the good liars at a Las Vegas Trump rally only a few days out from the presidential election now. We can use this to see where MAGA is in terms of mind state and perspective. And as always, we'll just jump in with the fact checks or context we might need.
You want the military to arrest everyone in Washington, D.C.?
You're bet.
And who are you voting for this year?
Oh, Trump.
Trump?
Absolutely.
And why do you want the military to go be used against our country's own people?
Nobody else has got the power to go against the cabal.
And who is the cabal?
The cabal are the elites. They're the ones that are putting up the money to pay for all the that stuff up there.
What are you talking about?
The sky trails.
What
Chemtrails.
What are chemtrails?
Chemicals and metals. And they've been military started doing that in Vietnam.
And you think the U.S. is doing that to its own
I know
people?
They are.
This is extra infuriating because these people are honestly so close to getting it, but they choose instead to buy into the propaganda fed to them by an elite in Donald Trump and choose instead to go do conspiracy theory. I mean, there is a dichotomy of elites versus non-elites, but they're not doing chemtrails or Jewish space lasers and whatever other nonsense these people like to say, rigging elections, but only the ones Democrats win. When Republicans win, they're all free and fair, right? What they're actually doing is they're the reason that minimum wage is still $7.25 federally and hasn't kept up with inflation, hasn't kept up with cost of living. It's why we have between 28 to 38 vacant homes for each homeless person in this country, but tens of thousands still die homeless on the streets each year in the wealthiest country in the world. Remember, and in the wealthiest country in the world, they're the reason that not everyone has health care, despite having plenty of the funds to provide it. Why people can still be priced out of life-saving medicine and treatments that would save their life. Why we have anti-democratic institutions that go against everything our founding fathers stood for, like the Supreme Court or the Electoral College. Why the top 10% own 93% of all stocks and shares of a company aren't socialized to the workers. Why the rich keep getting richer at the behest of the middle and lower classes. I mean, I could go on for days, right? The list doesn't end on what the elites actually do, but because Republicans spearhead all of these things and those elites are the Republican donors, MAGA voters don't care about the very real problems that elites create and would rather talk about conspiratorial nonsense like chemtrails.
The earth warms every 6 million years. I don't believe your climate change story. Yes, we're going through climate change. It's God's climate change. It's Mother Earth's climate change. It's not anything we have done.
You don't think greenhouse gases have anything to do with climate change?
No. If you go back and look at the history of the Earth, every 6 million years it heats up and then it cools back off, and then it heats up and cools off. So what would make anybody think, if this has been going on for millions and millions of years, that we had anything as small as we are to do with it?
Well, there's a lot of science backing that up, saying the greenhouse gas.
There's a lot of science the other way. So if you go, I've watched.
Do you think God is warming the earth right now?
I think God is really angry right now, and everybody should be afraid.
The conspiracies and lack of knowledge on multiple subjects coming from MAGA can really be upsetting. Honestly, people learn the bare minimum about a thing and then connect all the dots of what they don't know with their own ideas that they feel make sense. And that's definitionally how conspiracy theories are born. Look up Dunning-Kruger effect. And that's MAGA in pretty much every aspect, right? These are people who didn't keep up with politics, the economy, science, history, any of these things. But now that they have this undying allegiance to Trump, they want to pretend to be experts about all of this. And you can just tell quickly how little they actually understand these things. And this lady is a perfect indication of that, because it is true that Earth has fluctuated between hot and cold periods. These are actually called Milankovitch cycles. They happen due to our orbit around the sun and the way the Earth tilts. And it happens about every 100,000 years. The problem is, when we're talking about climate change, is that when temperatures rise naturally through this process, it's gradual over thousands, if not tens of thousands of years. Humans, however, through our carbon emissions, not only have caused this to happen in about 150 years, so that the temperatures rose in 150 years in what would naturally happen in tens of thousands of years, but it led us to warm in what should be a cooling phase in our Milankovitch cycle. So if what you're appealing to is the natural cycle of Earth warming and then cooling, it's still like what you're saying is silly on its face because we're warming in what should be a naturally cooling period. So obviously something is awry. And it also tracks 1-to-1 that when these greenhouse gas emissions are higher, temperatures are warmer. When they're lower, temperatures are lower. And we've pushed carbon dioxide levels to levels that we haven't seen in millions of years, maybe hundreds of millions of years. This leads to the downstream effects of global warming, like rising oceans that also then let out more carbon dioxide, increased droughts, more severe storms like the hurricanes we've been seeing. It can lead to more health risks, expanded diseases, and I mean, the list goes on here as well, displacement of crops and homes and other things, right? And to deny this, to go against all scientific consensus on this matter, because your political side tells you to, because your local politician doesn't believe in climate change, it's the definition of ignorant.
And how old is the Earth?
How old is the Earth? At least over 6,000 years old.
So would you like it to be taught in schools that the Earth is around 6,000 years old?
Well, you have what's being taught right now, which is called a theory. And a theory, to become an actual fact, it has to be proven. They can't even prove it because of circular theoryism. They use what's called, they take a rock and they say, hey, this artifact or this bone, we carbon dated the rock. And then you go into the next exhibit and they say, hey, we found out this rock is X million years old. And you say, how did you find that out? It says, well, we carbon dated the bone that it was found out of. So that's circular theoryism, which actually doesn't really work. There's no true actual fact there.
Does the Bible say definitively that the Earth is around 6,000 years old?
If you look at the timelines of when everything started lining up, yes, right around that time, yes. So it does prove that fact. And then you do have what's called a flood, a global flood. And it's been proven factual, according to science, that if you go to every single mountain range at a certain elevation, they found what was called fossils. And in those fossils were fossils that were found in the oceans. And you can find that anywhere, and that's a proven fact.
But doesn't most of the science say that was millions of years ago, those fossils?
I mean, it's actually mind-numbing. The Earth can't be billions of years old because scientific theories are stupid, but it's definitely 6,000 years old because a book about a man walking on water says that it is. Like, what are we even doing? Let's just be all the way honest with ourselves. Like, where along the timeline of American history, of world history, did it become more normal to just make shit up rather than say, I don't really know how these things work. I'm not sure. That should be a normal thing in discourse, right? To explain this in the most layman terms possible, there's elements and isotopes within rocks, minerals, things that we can find on the Earth that decay at predictable and consistent rates, like uranium and potassium. So through utilizing those to do radiometric dating, they can conclude roughly how old the Earth is, because obviously these substances, these elements are found in things that are found on the Earth. So 1-to-1, right? I don't know, but maybe we should just believe the book about the guy walking on water. It's called science, right? And it really doesn't give a shit about your feelings. Also, kind of funny that he then tries to point to fossils on mountains as proof of what he's saying, but those fossils are dated to be millions of years old, which he doesn't believe to be possible, of course. If you enjoyed this video, we're Social Society. We're a commentary channel influenced by politics, society, and the economy. We are pretty left-leaning on this channel, but we're open to our right-wingers as well. The biggest thing here is having conversations that get everyone to the bottom of the truth. If that sounds like something that could interest you, consider smashing that subscribe button, leaving us a like, or even commenting on this video. We even have memberships available as low as $3 if you'd like to support, because the only way we become a society is together.